Part 1. She was dead until Jesus said 2 words. Have you ever felt completely powerless? Imagine standing beside the bed of someone you love more than anything, watching their life slowly slip away while knowing there is nothing you can do to stop it. Every prayer seems unanswered. Every passing minute feels like an eternity. Now imagine hearing about a man who has healed the blind, made the lame walk, and performed miracles no one could explain. Would you risk everything to find him? This is the incredible true story of Jairus, a respected synagogue leader whose faith would be tested beyond anything he had ever imagined. It is a story of fear, hope, heartbreak, and a miracle that proved Jesus has power even over death. Before we witness that miracle, we must first understand the desperate father behind it. The shores of the Sea of Galilee were filled with life. Fishermen returned each morning with their catch. Merchants opened their stalls as families filled the streets. Children laughed while Roman soldiers watched from a distance, reminding everyone that Israel remained under foreign rule. But there was one name on everyone's lips: Jesus. Some believed he was a prophet. Others believed he was the long-awaited Messiah. Many simply followed him because they had witnessed impossible miracles with their own eyes. The blind received sight. The sick were healed. The broken found hope. Everywhere Jesus traveled, crowds gathered. Some wanted healing. Others wanted answers. Many simply wanted to see whether the stories were true. Among those who had heard about Jesus was a man named Jairus. He was one of the rulers of the synagogue, a respected leader responsible for overseeing worship, caring for the sacred scriptures, and helping guide the spiritual life of the community. People respected him. They trusted him. From the outside, his life seemed secure. But behind the doors of his home, everything was falling apart. His only daughter, just 12 years old, was dying. She had once filled the house with laughter. Her smile brought joy to everyone who knew her. She loved listening to her father read the scriptures and spending time with her family. Now the house was silent. Relatives whispered in fear. Friends gathered to pray. Physicians had done everything they could. They tried every treatment they knew, but nothing helped. Each day her condition became worse. Her breathing grew weaker. Her strength faded. Jairus watched helplessly as the life of his precious daughter slowly slipped away. For the first time, his position, his reputation, and his influence meant absolutely nothing. No amount of money could heal her. No human wisdom could save her. He had reached the end of himself. Then one thought filled his mind. Jesus. He had heard the stories. Could they really be true? Could this teacher from Nazareth save his little girl? Seeking Jesus would not be easy. Many religious leaders questioned him. Some even opposed him. If Jairus publicly begged Jesus for help, many people would see it. His reputation could be damaged forever. But when your child is dying, pride no longer matters. Status no longer matters. Only love remains. Taking one last look at his daughter, Jairus made the most important decision of his life. He hurried out of his home and ran through the crowded streets, searching desperately for Jesus. He had no guarantee that he would find him. He had no promise that Jesus would come. But hope, however small, was enough to make him run. What Jairus did not know was that his faith was about to face its greatest test, and that the miracle waiting ahead would be remembered for thousands of years. Part 2. A desperate plea. The streets were overflowing with people. News had spread quickly that Jesus had returned, and wherever he went, crowds surrounded him. Men, women, and children pushed forward, hoping for a chance to see him. Some carried loved ones who were sick. Others simply longed to hear him teach. Jairus searched through the sea of faces until, at last, he saw Jesus. Without hesitation, the respected synagogue leader rushed toward him. Ignoring the whispers of the crowd and forgetting his position, Jairus fell at Jesus' feet. His voice trembled as he pleaded, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and lay your hands on her so that she may be healed and live." The crowd fell silent. No one expected a man of Jairus' status to humble himself like this. Jesus looked at the grieving father with compassion. Without asking questions or making him wait, he simply began walking toward Jairus' house. Hope returned to the father's heart. Perhaps they would arrive in time. Perhaps his daughter could still be saved. But reaching the house would not be easy. The crowd continued to grow, pressing against Jesus from every direction. Every step forward became slower than the last. For Jairus, each moment felt unbearable. He knew his daughter's life was hanging by a thread. Every delay increased his fear. Then something unexpected happened. Jesus suddenly stopped. He looked around and asked, "Who touched me?" The disciples were confused. "Master," they replied, "so many people are surrounding you. How can you ask who touched you?" But Jesus knew this touch was different. Power had gone out from him. Hidden among the crowd was a woman who had suffered from constant bleeding for 12 long years. She had spent everything she owned on physicians. Instead of getting better, she had only grown worse. Because of her condition, she was considered ceremonially unclean. Many people avoided her. She lived with physical pain, loneliness, and shame. Yet she believed one thing with all her heart: if I can only touch his garment, I will be healed. Quietly, she reached through the crowd. Her fingers barely touched the edge of Jesus' cloak. Instantly, everything changed. The bleeding stopped. The pain disappeared. For the first time in 12 years, she knew she was healed. Jesus turned and searched the crowd. The woman, trembling with fear, stepped forward and fell before him. She confessed everything. Instead of rebuking her, Jesus smiled with kindness. "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace." The woman left filled with joy. But Jairus could hardly breathe. Every second spent there felt like another second his daughter was slipping away. Why had Jesus stopped? Why now? He wanted to speak, but he remained silent. He trusted Jesus enough to keep following, even though he could not understand the delay. He had no idea that the worst news of his life was only moments away. Part 3. Do not be afraid, only believe. While Jesus was still speaking with the woman, several men arrived from Jairus' house. The moment Jairus saw their faces, his heart sank. He didn't need to hear their words. He already knew. One of the servants stepped forward and spoke softly. "Your daughter is dead. Don't trouble the teacher anymore." Time seemed to stand still. Every hope Jairus had carried disappeared in an instant. He had run through the streets. He had fallen at Jesus' feet. He had believed they would arrive in time. But now, it was over. His little girl was gone. The crowd grew silent. Many believed there was no reason to continue. After all, sickness could be healed. But death was different, or so they thought. Before Jairus could say a single word, Jesus turned toward him. Looking directly into the grieving father's eyes, he spoke with calm authority. "Do not be afraid, only believe." Those words changed everything. Jesus did not explain why he had delayed. He did not promise how the miracle would happen. He simply asked Jairus to keep trusting. Faith often begins where human understanding ends. Without another question, Jairus continued walking beside Jesus. Step by step, they made their way toward the house. When they arrived, the sound of crying filled the air. Family members wept openly. Friends embraced one another. Professional mourners had already gathered, filling the home with loud cries of grief. Everyone knew the little girl had died. Jesus entered the house and looked around. Then he said something no one expected. "Why all this commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but asleep." The mourners burst into laughter. They mocked him. They had seen the girl's lifeless body. To them, there was no hope left. But Jesus was not moved by their disbelief. He asked everyone to leave the house except the child's parents and 3 of his disciples, Peter, James, and John. The room became completely quiet. There, lying on her bed, was the 12-year-old girl. She was perfectly still. No movement, no breath, no sign of life. Jairus and his wife stood frozen, their hearts filled with grief, yet holding onto the small hope Jesus had given them. Then Jesus walked to the bedside. He gently took the little girl's hand. The room was silent. Every eye was fixed on him. Then, in a gentle voice, he spoke 2 simple words in Aramaic. Talitha, which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." At that very moment, everything changed. Part 4. Life returned. The moment Jesus spoke those words, something extraordinary happened. Warmth began to return to the little girl's body. The color slowly came back to her face. Her fingers moved. Then her eyes opened. She took a deep breath. The room that had been filled with silence and grief was suddenly overcome with astonishment. Jairus and his wife could hardly believe what they were seeing. Only moments earlier, they had been preparing themselves for the unthinkable. They had accepted the painful reality that their daughter was gone forever. Now, she was alive. The little girl sat up in bed and looked around the room. Then, as if waking from a peaceful sleep, she stood to her feet and began to walk. Her parents rushed toward her, embracing her with tears streaming down their faces. The sorrow that had filled their home was instantly replaced by overwhelming joy. Peter, James, and John stood speechless. Although they had already witnessed many miracles, this was unlike anything they had ever seen. They had watched Jesus command demons, heal the sick, cleanse lepers, and calm a violent storm with only his voice. But now they had witnessed something even greater. Jesus had spoken, and death itself had obeyed him. For everyone else, death marked the end of every hope. For Jesus, it was never the final chapter. The Creator who had breathed life into Adam in the beginning had once again spoken life into someone who could not answer for herself. Then Jesus did something both simple and beautiful. He looked at the girl's parents and said, "Give her something to eat." It was a gentle reminder that the miracle was real. She was not a spirit. She was not a vision. She was alive, healthy, and completely restored. Even after performing one of his greatest miracles, Jesus cared about her ordinary human needs. That is the heart of Christ. He is concerned not only with the extraordinary moments of our lives, but also with the smallest details. Before leaving the house, Jesus instructed the family not to spread the news immediately. Yet a miracle of this magnitude could never remain hidden for long. The news spread throughout Galilee. People spoke of the little girl who had died and then walked home alive. Some believed with all their hearts that Jesus was the promised Messiah. Others struggled to accept what had happened. But no one could deny that something impossible had taken place. The story of Jairus reminds us that faith is often tested in the waiting. There are moments when God seems silent. Moments when our prayers appear unanswered. Moments when we believe hope has already died. Jairus experienced every one of those emotions. He watched Jesus stop to heal another person while his own daughter lay dying. He heard the devastating words, "Your daughter is dead." He walked into a house filled with mourners who believed everything was over. Yet Jesus asked only one thing of him. "Do not be afraid, only believe." Those words still speak to us today. No situation is too broken for Christ. No heart is too wounded. No life is beyond his power to restore. The same Savior who took a little girl by the hand still reaches out to those who trust him. Where the world sees an ending, Jesus sees the opportunity for a new beginning. Where fear takes over, he offers peace. Where death seems to have the final word, Christ reminds us that he alone is the resurrection and the life. If this story strengthened your faith, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Thank you for watching, and may God bless you and your family abundantly.